Welcome back, viewers. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is One. My name is Diksha Bisla, and let's get started with the headlines. Russia claims to have captured a village in Ukraine's Sumy region in a rare cross-border advance. The village is close to Russia's Kursk region. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu departs for a Washington visit. He's set to meet President Donald Trump tomorrow. Israel releases fresh video, claims to have struck Assad regime assets in Syria, says it is conducting raid on Syrian outpost. Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes a dig at Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin amid the ongoing language row. Says that although he received several letters from Tamil Nadu leaders, none of them bear their signatures in Tamil. Pope Francis makes his first public appearance at the Vatican since being discharged from the Gemelli Hospital 2 weeks ago. Greets crowds from a wheelchair in St. Peter's Square.
Israel detains 2 members of UK Parliament, refuses entry to officials visiting as part of a parliamentary delegation, says British Foreign Minister David Lammy. Israel claims Labour members of Parliament Yuan Yang and Abtisam Mohammed were suspected of spreading anti-Israel hatred. Israel releases fresh video, claims to have struck Assad regime assets in Syria, says it is conducting raids on Syrian outposts. New Pamban Bridge will benefit the state of Tamil Nadu with trade and tourism and jobs, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as he inaugurated India's first vertical lift rail sea bridge in Rameswaram. Russia claims to have captured a village in Ukraine's Sumy region in a rare cross-border advance. The village is close to Russia's Kursk region. Overnight, U.S. airstrikes killed 2 people in a Houthi rebel stronghold in Yemen. Strikes in Saada destroy a 2-story building local channels described as a solar power shop. Congo's capital, Kinshasa, submerged in its first major deluge of the year. Swirling waters carry away cars and inundate houses in a city marked by poor drainage and many informal settlements in low-lying areas. Thousands of Ram devotees take part in a grand procession in Dhaka on Ram Navami. The procession, that started from the Ram Sita temple premises, ended at the Jayakali temple. Pope Francis makes his first public appearance at the Vatican since being discharged from hospital 2 weeks ago, greets crowds from a wheelchair at St. Peter's Square.
Some weather news here. Millions of people from Texas all the way to here to Ohio are under flood alerts due to heavy rain. In Arkansas, officials say nearly 50 highways had to be closed down after being overrun with water. So this train here plunged into a river after floodwaters washed out a bridge and derailed multiple cars. Officials say no one was hurt. And in Kentucky, well, the state was hit with massive amounts of rain as well. And yesterday, officials in Louisville said one person was killed due to the flooding. Kentucky's governor has declared a state of emergency. Time is now
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engines full power. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Invac ignition.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Good evening. It's a nightmare scenario. 4 men buried hundreds of metres underground after part of a roof collapsed at a mine near Picton on Sydney's outskirts. This was the urgent situation at 3 o'clock this morning. Remarkably, their injuries are not life-threatening after the incident in an area which has a checkered history.
Douglas Park in the early hours of this morning. Stuck deep below the surface of GM3's Appin mine are 4 men. The group becoming trapped around 3 a.m.
This incident involved a sudden collapse of the roof directly above where these workers are working, approximately 400 to 500 metres underground.
It's believed one man managed to dig himself free. The others pulled out after spending an hour partially buried. 2 of them taken to Wollongong Hospital, the others to Liverpool.
One of the patients transported to Liverpool Hospital, a man in his 50s, was transported with head and pelvic injuries.
All escaped with non-life-threatening injuries.
Multiple agencies, including the New South Wales Resources Regulator, have been brought in to investigate what went wrong. All operations at the mine have been paused until further notice.
In a statement, the Mining and Energy Union saying no stone will be left unturned in determining the source of the incident, and all workers have the right to safely go home at the end of their shift.
All Australians are thinking of these workers, their families and their colleagues right now. It's another reminder that all Australians deserve a safe workplace.
The Appin area is no stranger to the risks of a mine site. In 1979, 14 men were killed and dozens were severely burned after a methane gas explosion. Whether history has repeated itself is still unknown.
Difficult to say until we actually understand exactly what the causes were for this incident, to really speculate as to whether this is a similar incident to what's been happening in the past or whether this is a rare event.
FEMA could be on the chopping block as the Trump administration weighs more cuts to the federal government. 27 News Washington correspondent Hannah Brandt explains how it could impact states that heavily rely on disaster relief aid.
When natural disasters hit the U.S., the Federal Emergency Management Agency responds.
FEMA is a critical partner.
But the Trump administration may get rid of FEMA, which is under the Department of Homeland Security. Just last week, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem talked about her plans to eliminate it.
There's unbelievable waste, just billions of waste.
Republican Senator Rick Scott says FEMA needs an overhaul. His state, Florida, is no stranger to storms and relies heavily on disaster relief. But Scott argues that should be more locally led.
A disaster is first your responsibility, local government, then state government, and then the federal government can be a financial partner.
Democratic Senator Tim Kaine has major concerns about axing FEMA.
Response to emergency is a core function of government.
When his state, Virginia, gets severe weather, he says FEMA has been a major asset.
And not just dollars, but their technical expertise and their their help in recovery efforts.
Republican Congressman Tim Moore agrees there's value in the agency.
There's probably a role for FEMA or something like FEMA because there are certain things that the federal government just has the resources to be able to do better.
For example, Moore says giving states block funding for disaster relief could be a problem because they may not have the setup to disperse it efficiently. But as his North Carolina district recovers from Hurricane Helene, he says he's seen how complicated and slow federal help can be. Now the congressman is part of a FEMA review council the president created to suggest fixes.
Number one, making sure we get rid of bureaucracy and red tape.
Moore says whether FEMA is eliminated or significantly reformed, he just wants to see improvement.
Whatever it looks like in terms of making it more nimble, more responsive, I don't really care how we get there. I just want to get there.
The United States says it's to revoke all visas held by South Sudanese passport holders over Juba's failure to accept the return of its repatriated citizens. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington would also block any new visas to prevent entry into the U.S. by South Sudanese. The decision comes at a time when many fear a renewal of the civil war in South Sudan that saw 400,000 people killed between 2013 and 2018. Rising tensions between President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar culminated in the latter's arrest last month. In recent days, African Union mediators held talks in South Sudanese capital Juba aimed at averting a new civil war. President Donald Trump's administration has taken aggressive measures to ramp up immigration enforcement, including the repatriation of people deemed to be in the country illegally. Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden, had granted South Sudanese nationals temporary protection status, which shields people against deportation. It's granted to foreign citizens who cannot safely return home because of war, natural disasters, or other extraordinary conditions.
What's happening is these institutions that have done so much for the American people are being dismantled in a way that will leave scars for our country for decades to come.
Until a few weeks ago, had no idea that our democracy was this fragile. And so if Congress isn't going to stand up, it's up to us.
People around the nation gathered today to protest against President Donald Trump and Elon Musk, including right here in Chattanooga.
This is Local 3 News Weekend.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for Local 3 News at 11. I'm Cornelia Nicholson. Well, protests erupted across the nation earlier today, pushing back against the Trump administration. More than 1,400 hands-off protests were held at state capitals, federal buildings, and parks across the country. On your screen, you can see the crowds in Chicago, Illinois, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta, Georgia. Organizers say they planned what they called a pro-democracy movement in response to a, quote, hostile takeover and, quote, billionaire power grab. Well, that hands-off movement made its way all the way to here in Chattanooga. Local 3's Catherine Vaughn visited Ross's Landing earlier today and spoke with protesters, telling them why they felt to join the movement. She joins us now in studio. Catherine, what did you see all out there?
Cornelia, we saw lots of people chanting, waving signs. Residents and protesters from as far as Atlanta all gathered downtown to take part in the movement. And they say they want their voices heard. Lined all across Chattanooga's riverfront, you could see hundreds of people chanting, waving flags, and holding signs. Chattanooga is just one of many cities who took part in the nationwide hands-off protest, a movement that opposes the actions of President Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Getting everyone's voices heard against the current administration and what's going on. Everything that Elon Musk is doing, everything that Donald Trump is doing is not for the good of America. It's for the good of billionaires. None of us are going to benefit from any of their policies that they're implementing.
The rallies were organized by a pro-democracy movement in response to what organizers call a hostile takeover, an attack on American rights and freedoms.
Silence is compliance.
We need to step back and unite, stand together under our flag against what's going on and demand change and demand more from our government, because we could do a lot better than we are right now.
I mean, I think there's some people that are awake, that are having their eyes open, that aren't trying to just follow the masses and say that everything's okay when it's not okay.
They say it's an opportunity to unite citizens, regardless of political opinion.
You're no longer alone, and we hope that the rallies that have happened around the country today will unite us all.
One Chattanooga native says it's crucial to stand up for what he believes in a time when it matters most.
I may not be a warrior, but I can be out here and share my voice and do what I feel is right. So one day when my son asks me what I did to stand up against it, I can tell him. And that I didn't just stand idly by.
For more on the protest, you can head over to our website. I'm Catherine Vaughn, Local 3
As we
News.
mentioned earlier, mass protests swept through cities nationwide and all around the world this weekend. Right now, you're going to be looking at events held in Charlotte, Philadelphia, and Indiana, where thousands of Americans took to the street to voice their frustrations with the Trump administration's policies. ABC's Johnny Fernandez has more.
Nationwide demonstrations from Washington and Boston to Texas and California, protesting President Trump's policies and billionaire Elon Musk. The rallies happening the same day that 10% tariffs on most imports took effect. These protesters in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Education, huge.
Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, veterans' rights, everything, LGBTQ
all
community.
the yes.
Everybody's threatened, and this is not the America I love. What happened to our ideals and the balance of power, the 3 checks and balances?
ABC's Christian Cordero was at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. That rally organized by Democratic activists.
Throughout the day today, we have seen signs that say, hands off our schools, hands off our bodies, hands off our Social Security. It seems everyone out here has a message about what they consider government overreach.
As a precautionary measure, the First Lady's office rescheduled her spring garden tours. The president on social media telling Americans, hang tough. It won't be easy, but the end result will be historic. Most economists warn U.S. consumers should brace for higher prices and possible shortages.
I think it's still a little uncertain of exactly how that's all going to shake out, but I think initially the markets are not responding favorably to those tariffs.
The White House has yet to comment on the protests, which is estimated to have attracted at least 500,000 attendees. Johnny Fernandez.
It is up to all of us to fix this. It's not going to be because somebody comes and saves you. The most important office in this democracy is the citizen, the ordinary person who says, no, that's not right. It has been easy during most of our lifetimes to say you are a progressive, or say you are for social justice, or say you're for free speech, and not have to pay a price for it. And now we're at one of those moments where, you know what, it's not enough just to say you're for something. You may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit. All right, we say we're for equality. Are we willing to fight for it? Are we going to risk something for it? We say that we're for rule of law. Are we going to stick to that when it's tough, not when it's easy? We believe in freedom of speech. Do we stand up for freedom of speech when the other person talking is saying stuff that infuriates us and is wrong and hurtful? Do we still believe in it?
The President of the United States acted for his country
and that is his mandate. Today, I will act in Britain's interests with mine. I understand how important this is for your businesses, as it is for the British people. So we move now to the next stage of our plan. Decisions we take in coming days and weeks will be guided only by our national interest, in the interests of our economy, in the interests of businesses around this table, in the interest of putting money in the pockets of working people. Now, clearly there will be an economic impact from the decisions that the US has taken, both here and globally. But I want to be crystal clear. We are prepared. Indeed, one of the great strengths of this nation is our ability to keep a cool head. I said that in my first speech as Prime Minister, and that is how I govern. That is how we have planned, and that is exactly what is required today.